can do. Um, the problem this time was the sheer amount of rainfall that the rivers burst their banks. Nairobi is built on a network of rivers, around 8 of them, but 3 main ones: Nairobi River, Madare River, Ngong River. And unfortunately, the history. If you look at the history of the city, from the 1948 master plan, what the colonialists that time and the government then wanted was to have a buffer between them, in the higher areas, because they took all the higher areas, Muthaiga, Upper Hill, Kilimani, whatnot, and left now the lower areas and created a buffer for the, poorer Africans, and that is why you find all of the informal settlements are along a river, Madare River. They're the worst hit. Actually, 60% of the damage in Nairobi is along the Madare River channel, coming to Roraka, coming up there. And so, if you go to Mukuru, it is the Ngong River that bursts its banks. If you go to Kibra, it's that river that bursts its banks. Again, the Ngong River. If you look at the damage in these other areas, like Waruku, it's a bit, but that's part of the river network there. Fortunately, they moved in advance. We told people, look, you cannot be here, but that's always muddied with a lot of politics. Oh, they want to move us, they want to change this. But the Waruku guys moved, and there was no casualty. Before, even with last year's El Nino, we lost, I think, 2 or 3 people. There's a lady and a child I know, and I think there's one more person.
Yeah.
So far, in total, we've lost 16 people in the city, and that is 16 too many people. And we're still getting reports. We're part of the search and rescue in areas where there's still that issue. Because even now with lower floods, the ground is already saturated. So even with less rain, the effect is still bigger. But what I'm happy about is that areas of traditional flooding have not flooded this time. And if it floods, it's just that water in a jar and then it flows. Because we've opened up the drainage. This Green Army, 3,500 guys hired by the county government. I'm sure you see them wherever you stay. They're always in a Kichochoro, and they do their bit. If they didn't do that, even with just last year's El Nino, Nairobi would have been completely flooded. So that's the situation we're in right now. We have people in 10 camps. There were 31 camps before. So now they're back to 10 camps, mainly around Madare Foe, Madare North Primary, drive-in. We have them, vocational training, Valley Bridge, where we were the other day, Huruma, and Hanka Educational Center. We are looking to closing them. We've been feeding them from Dish in a county. Our kitchens have been giving them hot meals. Hot meal is also therapeutic. So they're getting hot meals. When they said schools would open, it was the middle of the night, and we'd already cooked 60,000 meals, but only 13,000 guys in camps. So he said, no, it's okay. Let's give them the food and keep giving them. On top of the dry food subs we give them. We gave them last week. Yesterday I gave food in Kibra and in Mukuru. Today I'm giving in other places. But on top of that, just a hot meal, lunch and supper every day for as long as the camps remain. We have 10 kitchens that we built on Dishina County. They have the capacity to feed 184,000 kids that we feed every day. And so we have the capacity to sustain that as a county.
Yeah.
I just want to screw back to what you've just said about, because one of the hardest places we've seen hit in the city of Nairobi is informal settlements.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned something very critical. You said, we told them that there was going to be flooding and some of them moved. You've mentioned one area.
Yeah.
Why didn't other areas move? We have the CS for Interior telling us, if you stay in a place that's flooded, we will charge you for, or crossing a river, that will charge you for attempted suicide. But staying in that area where there's flooding, for example, is in that, if are they given options of, stay here? Because at the end of the day, prevention is better than response.
You see,
right?
yes.
And Meteorological Department has been very clear from last year that these are not your ordinary circumstances. This is El Nino, right? So we did know that there was going to be heavy downpour. In fact, even as of yesterday, if you check the page of Meteorological, they've even broken it down so that Kenyans can completely understand that this is what 1 millimeter of rain can do. This is what 100 millimeters of rain can do. Behavioral change amongst Nairobians, right? Because the thing is, if people do not have trust, they do not respond to the communication that they are given urgently, right? We've seen it in Kijabe where people said, we were told, we didn't move, right? We've seen it in Garissa where they said, tulishinda tukiambiwa itakuwa ina flood, but we didn't move. So is there need for, and has there been behavioral change communication to let Kenyans know, guys, this enemy that is coming is not an ordinary enemy. Let us start behaving accordingly.
So what happens? And I agree with you. It's a lot of it is behavioral change, because you'll ask yourself, why is it that in some areas people moved and others they didn't? Because what was expected to be the huge El Nino, was last year. Yeah. Last year was what we knew was that's going to be crazy El Nino, and they said, oh, so it didn't affect us that much. Then we're still good. I've gone to places where it rained the previous day, people are affected, but the next morning you find them there with their mbaos and mabati trying to build structures. So you must understand the dynamic. There are two people. There's the structure owner and the person who lives in it. That's a tenant. So many times you tell the people to move. The tenant will move. The structure owner gets another tenant to come in there. The tenant is probably even oblivious of the communication that has been coming in. So the people we want to deal with now are those who own those structures in the wrong places. Yeah. There was once a meeting where they were called. They all came driving. They're not the poor people in the in the informal settlements. These are people who make a lot of money, from these structures. They make a lot of rental income, but they're exploiting, unfortunate circumstances of people in the city.
But Governor, we're asking, if you look at, for example, abroad, right? We watch a lot of movies. We grew up watching movies. You see, when there is, say, an earthquake or there's a typhoon or there's something happening, there is a structure and there's a system in which you communicate information, and the city knows this is what we do. We act like ants. We all move in one way. There's nothing like I have to save my property. This is past that. There's a law. When this happens, I dare not see you doing this or that.
That's ideal. That's in an ideal situation.
Yes.
Let me tell you, yesterday, people are even stoning the vehicles from the second highest office in this country the day before. These are not people who will receive an email, please move and just go. And you see, when you come to remove those structures, again there's hue and cry. Why are you demolishing people's houses? You have not put for them. So it must just be tough government action going forward.
How much does it cost to respond rather than to prevent? Because if we
prevention is always better.
Move these people from a place where, like, for example, look what's happening in one morning we woke up, I think it was 24th, and there was like Madare devastation, right? Did they have we have 3,500 Green Army, right? It doesn't have to be an email. How do we do evacuation for the night, right? Most people don't want to move because they're like, where will I go? Where will I go? And you speak to Kenyans and they say, I want to save my life, but I don't know where to go.
Those people are victims of terrible economic circumstances. When you see the president and ourselves insisting on affordable housing, it is because of these people. They're there because they have no choice. They pay 1,000 bob for rent or 1,500 for rent. You remove them, you create the IDP camps. I think what we need to focus on going forward is one, and what we agreed on Sunday. We had a joint intergovernmental meeting at OP. And I told them, look, we can't allow people to go back because they have moved. They have been moved rather by the water. We can't allow them to go back. We want to secure. Now, when I was telling you the history of the city, we want to reinvert the city because most cities around the world, the riverfront is the most prime place that you want to be at. That's where you have restaurants, you have prime housing. In Nairobi, it's the other way around because of that history. And so that's why we set up the Rivers Commission. And so we've mapped out the riparian. Mwarma is going to put those X's and those marks. And we want to do things like the Nairobi Greenway. When you come to work, I'm sure you see so many people, scores of them walking towards the Westlands, towards town, passing this place. Do you know that if they walked along the Nairobi River, if you have a walkway and cycle path along that river, it will take them more than 70% less time than what they take. Because we're forcing people to walk like vehicles. But the rivers provide us a very natural greenway. And that's something that we've been pushing. So now we have an opportunity. Every cloud has a silver lining. We have an opportunity to secure that riparian. And we're discussing what are the options. Do we do trenches? They said, no, that's dangerous. Kids might get into it. We can do a line of housing and then do the greenway and the walkways around it. So we never let people go back. Otherwise, in Nairobi, it is cat and mouse. You'll do all of those things. You'll put even whatever communication, people will go back. They'll overwhelm the police. They'll overwhelm the sub-county admins. That discipline, that culture of listening, they are more than those numbers. And you see, they're being funded by very well-to-do people who own these structures.
Is it possible to move them into the IDP safe areas, right?
No. We don't want IDP camps.
Before. No, they're short emergency situations. Because at the end of the day, you find people are marooned. Yani lazima, like, let's give an example of Muranga yesterday, right? Where there was a mudslide, right? And they have to sit there and wait for instead of, we know that tonight there will be extremely heavy rain.
I agree with you.
Guys,
It's an ideal
let's
situation.
get ourselves out. Let's go to this church. Let's go to this place. We'll spend the night, right? Save lives first.
I agree with you. That
Why
is
isn't
ideal.
this happening?
It is easy to say that from here. We can go with you and you try it, you know, in a place like Madari. You know, first of all, you will not finish your sentence. It is a problem. You see, it's on top of it being, you know, a long time. Unless we just say, let's just be physical with these people, and bring in the army or bring in we cannot do that, you know. And so it's unfortunate that we've had to lose a number of people.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity to prevent them. What you're saying is ideal. I like it. On paper, it makes sense. It should make sense to anybody. This is coming. Please don't be here. There's an MP. There's a MCA. There are local leaders. They have not been able to move these people. It is not that easy, you know. And so now that there's concerted effort, and I'm very happy that all security agencies are on it. I've told them, please, let's put our money where our mouth is. Secure, even fence. Secure this place, whatever it takes for people not to go back to that riparian. Just do it. Yesterday, I was looking at a place in Kibra, in Lainisaba and Sarangombe, and the MP is telling me, all these houses were underwater. All these houses were underwater. People are back. If you try to touch those people, it's a whole political situation. It's a human rights people will be up. Oh, why are you evicting people? Why are you taking them to why? You know. So I think government just needs to make a firm decision, which we started on Sunday. The whole day we were at that meeting, to secure. It's a problem that has been there for decades. You know, it's not a Sakaja problem or this administration. You're saying it's a culture problem. It's a problem that, if I get away with it, then it's okay. I'll stay tomorrow. That yesterday my house flooded. I know my neighbor lost their child, but tomorrow I am coming to put up there again. You know, so this transitional housing that we are working on, 20 acres is being identified in certain areas, in Madare Referral Hospital, around NYS, the president had mentioned, and we want to look for those who really cannot be able to reintegrate. Apart from where they are, they'll have that temporary housing, you know, that they want to put up. We as Nairobi felt that what would be better is giving them the financial resources for them not to get back to where they were. And you know, it's a cycle. They say, look, this thing, the last time this rain happened was 99. We've lived there all this time. What are you telling us? They'll come back. You know, so it's a bigger. It's not as easy as it sounds on paper.
In fact, when we get back, because I want to go on a break, so we can switch our conversation and we begin to talk about other things. I mean, we have a doctor's issue, we have buildings issues in this city. We're going to be getting into that. Right now, here's Boys Abad from Kiss Daniel. The governor of Nairobi, Governor Johnson Sakaja. And I just wanted to ask you this, Governor. Because I want us to talk about a bit of the hospital issue with the doctors and also to talk about the building situation in our city at the moment. There's somebody who voted for you. They woke up 9th August 2022. Right now, they're looking at everything happening in their city, where they're living. They're talking about garbage. I know you have a solution for garbage, which you'll be able to explain for us what that exactly entails. Somebody is feeling frustrated. The floods are hitting them. They're feeling frustrated. They don't have footbridges. And you can see them on our social medias coming through and they're saying, I regret voting for my governor. What do you have to say to this person? Because that's a feeling they have right now. They're feeling frustrated with the city.
There are many feeling frustrated. There are many feeling jubilant. There are many who are very happy. It depends on how you look at it. You know, we're discussing Dishi and whatnot. There are people who are happy. There are those who are frustrated because it's not an easy city, you know, and sometimes a lot of circumstances in life come at the same time. You know, you can't say the governor caused the floods and caused the rain and also has caused, you know, there are things that are beyond us, you know. But what I tell them is that, look, there's a solid plan. When we said, let's make Nairobi work, we never said, let's Sakaja do it. All of us have a role to play, you know. And we gave a manifesto, we gave a plan, we said these are the things we want to do. People sometimes get caught up in the hype, you know, they get caught up in a lot of, and remember, a lot of messaging and propaganda is driven, is paid, you know, because of what we've been doing, because of the successes we've had as a county, because of the loopholes we've sealed. There are people who are not happy. You know, and when people say, oh, look, there's a problem, there's corruption, I'm like, okay, so how have we raised the highest amount in 5 years as a county and hired more people than we hired since the 80s, but still able to feed 184,000 children every day, build markets, get these things done? It means there's someone who is not getting what they used to get. We stopped fake LPOs and people selling hewa in the county. Someone would create an LPO on River Road, come and get a delivery note and get paid hundreds of millions every month without having delivered anything. What did you do? We went straight into e-procurement. If you know how e-procurement works, everything must be part of that process, from the budget to it being procured to the... So it's umafungia mwanya. The second group of people used to approve pending bill payments just on, from the IFMIS system. IFMIS is a computer system that the government uses for payments. There were more than 2,000 users in Nairobi. 2,000 users means even people who retired, people who have been fired, would still have ability and would do, illegal things. I cut them to 200, the number that's supposed to be. There are people who are not happy because they had grabbed land. In Mutuni, I'm building a market to 44 million on land that had been grabbed. In Maji Mazuri, 5.4 acres that was being sold to us was being grabbed. I took it. We're building a market. In the CBD, prime land, next to City Market, behind it, if you go there, you'll find a hoarding, a fence. I've taken it back. And many more places, South B Market, etc. You think those people are happy? They're not happy. So those people team up with those who have a political agenda. Either they want to run for the office, or they know if this county government actually succeeds, they'll have a problem in future. And they gang up and create this perception, and people are very impressionable.
Yeah.
So they create a perception that nothing is working, things are bad, no one was going to come, be the governor and wave a magic wand and everything be sorted immediately. There's no portal in Nairobi, there's no garbage in Nairobi, there's everything sorted in a year. It is impossible.
And
But
so,
what
But
about
there's progress.
But I have to ask, on that, there have been Senate summons on,
Yes.
that in fact, they were Kenyans. When I told them that you were coming here, said he wouldn't go to Senate summons, but would come.
You see,
to,
like that is sensationalized.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely, I wouldn't, format on that. But let's talk about you mentioned that there are no challenges.
Let me answer the Senate first. Let not go because
All
you're
right.
saying it's a big thing. I've gone to Senate more than 11 times. I've been a senator of Nairobi. I've been a member of parliament. I've gone more times than all my predecessors and than any governor in this country. You can check. I've gone to answer audit records of Governor Kidero. I've gone there more times on his audit than he went. He went once. From 2013 to 2018, Nairobi was getting disclaimer opinion, which is the worst audit opinion.
Yes.
From 2018 to 2022, Nairobi has been getting adverse opinions. I have gone there to answer for all of those previous ones. And the last time I was called, it was not on my audit. It was again still 2021-22. I was in the Senate. Why would I not want to go answer that?
Yeah, but I mean,
Meetings are rescheduled.
The ones that have been highlighted is like the Muradi fire. And when we're talking about, for example, some of the questions that have been asked
Like
is
what
like the servers that are hosting the Nairobi revenue collection, right?
I'd like us to be systematic. Let's finish the one on someone.
And so
I've not been summoned about that on revenue collection.
these are some of the things that are being raised. You said that people look at your detractors are politicizing some of these things.
Yeah, no. So when you sensationalize non-attendance or a missed meeting, meetings are rescheduled. I've been a chair of a committee, and sometimes you travel, sometimes you have an early engagement, and those travels are beneficial to the county. And so you say, hey, Chairman, please, we move this thing to this other date, and we agree. And that is what happens. And so when you don't make it and it's sensationalized, it is actually not fair to forget the 11 times you've not been there and focus on the 2 times you're away. Why has no one ever asked? I can list, and I wouldn't want to do it. At least for you governors, you've never seen in Senate. At all. I mean, there 11 times in 19 months, honestly.
and so
I worked so hard to get away from the Senate to become a governor. I guess want me back there.
the guys want you
and let me tell you, I believe in accountability. And why would I not want to answer questions on even that Muradi that was licensed and permitted way before I became governor? How would I have a problem with that? To answer to that, I would not have a problem. But it's just a matter of scheduling. And so the 2 missed meetings, which have been rescheduled time and time again. In fact, they said on this one, actually just do a written submission. Tell us what your point is, what you've done. despite even licensing of those gas plants not being a county function, do you know that it's not us who are supposed to do it? It is EPRA. Despite
But
even them
EPRA,
having...
the way what has been highlighted is that you're the missing link in this whole story of Mradi. Everybody else has attended the summon except you.
Attending doesn't sort out the problem.
Has been questioned.
You know, I'm happy to go even tomorrow, but that doesn't sort out the problem. Today, we're taking care of those victims. You know, giving them free medical service at our Mbakasi Health Center. We've been supporting them. Attending to say it was not me to license will not sort out that problem. That is not the solution. And so you sensationalize and none attended 1-2 meetings. Forget the 11, 12 attended, answered, sealed, delivered. Forget if it's an audit question, you're being called to answer for old audits that are not yours, but you must still answer them. This current audit of ours that talks about now that revenue system, that talks about the pending bills, etc., is an audit that when its time comes, I will also answer. And I'll be on time with all of mine, unlike all previous administrations, to be able to answer all of those. And I have an answer to all of those questions. The reason why sometimes you still get an adverse opinion is the questions that recur, they were never resolved. So, for instance, I became governor, I found pending bills of 100 billion. Would I sort it out in a year? From box. Is it possible to pay 100 billion in a year? Nairobi raises 10 billion and gets 20 billion from the nationally raised revenue. You will not. And so for as long as you've not sorted that out, it becomes a hanging issue because you must sort a portion of it while still running Nairobi today. The salaries to be paid today, I pay 1.3 B monthly. Yeah, what we get from that national share of revenue is 1.7. Leaving 300. I've not paid those Green Army guys who are on contract. I've not put fuel in our trucks. I've not put medicine in our hospitals.
Yeah.
I've not built a kitchen. I've not fed 184,000 kids. And so you must balance the current needs with the old questions. When you say, oh, lawyers are being paid in the county, one, should they not be paid? But number two, you don't sensationalize it and say you've paid 10 billion. You can't. I've just told you that's all we raise in revenue. How would we pay 10 billion?
All right.
So,
We've only paid 287
Yeah.
in 1.5 years.
Considering the doctors are on strike,
Yeah.
you said that you actually said that the Nairobi doctors, I mean, really, you're getting your salaries, you've got the best insurance in the country.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there's other better ways you can be in solidarity with the national doctors. This is a matter that has persisted over a month, right? Now, we have, emergencies all over the place and people going to hospitals not receiving health. And WHO is here saying, in partnership with Ministry of Health, we're starting our emergency, services, right? Where are these doctors, right? And doctors are saying, no, we are not necessarily getting the same salaries. Their issues haven't been dealt with. They're saying there's issues like disharmonious salaries, insurance, kila mtu anapata. You're working on the same hours with somebody. Huyu anafanya, get 140, mean I'm being paid.
Where, Nairobi?
Yeah.
No, there's no such issue. Let me explain the doctor's matter. Number one, everyone has a right for industrial action. Yeah, that's the Labor Relations Act. You can strike once you've followed the procedure. The strike that the doctors have are on a number of issues. Now, you strike against your employer. Yeah, people can't be having a problem at nation media, then you guys also go on strike. It's them and the employer. And if you have a problem with Radio Africa, you'll go on strike. So health is devolved. The national government has 4 hospitals only. Kenyatta, spinal injury, Eldoret, MTRH, and Mathare Mental. Counties, I have 124 hospitals. 124. Mama Lucy, Mbagathi, Pumwani, Mutwini at the top level. I've taken now Mama Margaret Uhuru in Kariobangi, North, and many level 4s, level 3s coming that way. Now, when the doctors put issues together, that one, they have an issue of interns. That's the issue of the strike, by the way. That's the main issue. If you solve interns, these other stories, harmonious, whatnot, are not a strike issue. There can be an issue, but it's not a strike. It's not an issue to take you to a strike, you know. You can have something in your office that you don't like. It doesn't mean you'll take industrial action. That can be solved. But the issue that is taking them to strike really is the issue of interns. They mentioned others. They said insurance. They want insurance. Some counties are not giving them insurance. Nairobi, they have the best. They want salaries on time. Nairobi, they get salaries. If you're a doctor in Nairobi, unless I stopped your salary, if you're on strike, tomorrow you should get your salary. They have issues. They had issues with working conditions, and the last one was NMS doctors. Those who had been there in NMS. On the issue of interns, Nairobi doesn't hire interns. Counties don't hire interns.
Yes.
Interns are hired by the national government. So you can be in solidarity with those guys striking because of interns, but you have no right to strike because of interns, yet you're in a hospital in Nairobi and you have everything. Now the people of Nairobi are paying you. They expect their governor, who they elected, to deliver health services in that hospital, but you're outside the hospital. So why should I not then hire other doctors? Because I still need to deliver that health thing. They have no issue with me. In fact, the law disallows what you call a sympathetic strike. A sympathetic strike is when you're striking, but it's really not an issue with your employer, but it's an issue in your sector or in your industry.
So this issue is being raised by KMPDU, Nairobi branch. You don't see them.
So list them. Let me answer them.
These are, for example, discriminatory contracts, which we've just mentioned. There are those ones who are on NMS contracts. Right?
So the NMS guys, for instance, NMS was a national government entity, isn't it? That took some functions from Nairobi County to run them, including health. In counties, you hire people through the County Public Service Board. These 113 doctors were hired through the Public Service Commission. And then they were seconded to do this work on contract. If I give you a 2-year contract, at the end of 2 years, your contract is done. But beyond that, despite them having been not hired by the county and being on contract, I said, look, we still need you in hospitals. Once your contract runs, I will absorb you to Nairobi. The nurses heard me. They said, you promise? I said, yes, I'll absorb you. There's no form of employment called absorption. You still have to go for an interview at the County Public Service Board. You have to do things legally. But the intention is that since you're already in our facilities, it gives you an advantage. Come and work with us. 425 of those NMS nurses were hired. Clinical officers, I think only 1 or 2 are not. They all came back and hired. And those 1 or 2, it's an issue with them. They know why they were not hired. The doctors, I have given them my word. I told them, guys, just like the rest, if you follow the procedure, you'll be hired to come and work in the county, like the other doctors. What do? They go to court to stop my hiring process. Do you know what the court tells them? Tells them, by the way, the governor has no obligation to hire you. He had no contract with you. You had a contract with the national government. He didn't hire you. You were hired by PSC, not by the Public Service Board. So actually, they lost the case. And they come back and tell them, guys, I told you, look, I hired these other guys. So why are you taking me to court? But follow the procedure. There's no, if I just absorbed them, would I be questioned on hiring illegally through a process that is not law? So I told them to follow the law, and the goodwill is there because they're already in our hospitals. I like the work they do, and many of them, despite the strike, are still working in our hospitals. But I paused the hiring process until the strike is done. Because the idea is, okay, you guys also just hang around the hospitals, be hired, then join us.
Yeah. So, Governor, I want us to switch a bit up and go into the building situation in Nairobi County. So, I mean, I know one of the things you've done with the floods is you stopped buildings from continuing. Like, no, let's stop. We have to go back and revisit the approvals. Let's go back and revisit. One of the challenges that we're having over time, and I believe this you've also faced a couple of times, we keep having buildings coming up. Our drainage systems are still the same ones. We're not improving on them. In addition to that, we're having a challenge whereby one morning you wake up where you are staying, there's a high rise coming up right next to you. What are the county government's plans in ensuring that, because we still want some areas to be residential where there are no apartments, but it seems we are going apartments everywhere.
But apartments
are there certain places where you've look? I want to talk about residential. I'm referring to whether it's a
single unit
standalone housing.
Unit dwellings,
yeah. So those single unit, are there certain places in the city that are designated for that?
Yeah.
And of course, then we still wake up tomorrow morning and find more buildings coming up.
Let me give you context. This city needs forward planning in many things, and it must have a plan.
Yeah.
The last master plan for the urban development of Nairobi is the 1976 master plan. 1976 master plan looked at a city of very few people, and that is why it proposed 4 stories in some areas, single unit in some areas, and so you find people with a lot of nostalgia, me included. I can show you a photo of my house on Dennis Street, where I've always enjoyed a nice compound. I've been there from 2015, so I've loved that compound, and there were trees next to it. Today, my compound, Purple Haze, apartments are there overlooking me, and another block next to it. That was way before when I was, governor. The nostalgia of wanting it to stay how it has always been. And sometimes you find, it was my dad's house, and we lived here. It was a former railway house, etc. And I want Riara to stay how it was. I want Kile to stay how it used to be. The city is growing. Now, the lack of forward planning has brought us problems, including water. And I've always explained to you guys, all the water development for the city was done, 4 out of 3 was done by the colonialists. 1904 to 1910, Kikuyu Springs gives us 6,000 cubic meters. 1928, after that was Ruiru Dam. After that, Sasumwa, 1958, still even before independence, gives us 60 million liters of water. After the 1958, we took time, then 1994 to 1997 is when we had the first state council proper water development, Nakaine. Nakaine gives us 84% of our water. In total, all of those give us 525 million liters. They did Nakaine thinking of the population of Nairobi of the year 2002, which was 2 million people. How many are we now? More than 5 million people. And so we receive 525 million liters daily, and the demand is 870 million liters every day. And so there's need to forward plan for the next and the next. And I'm happy at least we made progress. There's toll project which was there on Northern Collector. We're now getting 140 million liters extra by end of June. Northern Collector was stuck. We had to get way leaves to be paid from Kigoro treatment plant coming into the city. Yeah. And so that has been sorted out. They got the valves. Every 2 days I'm talking to Athi Water and Nairobi Water. Where are we on this? Where are we on this? Because I need that 140 million to start filling the gap between, what do you call it? The 525 and the 870. And remember, the 870 grows by 4% every year. So it also keeps moving. So we need to think of the next million ETC. So that just shows you what forward planning, lack of it, has done. On top of that, just to mention, I've been able to, in some of these visits, where you'd rather I be here just to say it wasn't me. I've got $100 million to do Northern Collector 2 and Maragua 4, which will add 220 million liters per day in Nairobi. So in the next 3 years, we'll have 220 plus this 140. And then at Ngedu water treatment, we lose 30 million daily in the filtration system. All this water must be filtered. You know, sometimes I see people saying, it's raining, but we're still being rationed for. Like, no, we don't give you guys rainwater. Water goes through a treatment plant. The production capacity of that plant doesn't change no matter how filled the dam is.
So then, Governor...
So I'm coming to it.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that now we're planning the next 1 million, we're planning the next 2 million liters of water coming in. Now, the problem of that 1976 master plan is that it didn't foresee the population we have today. Nairobi is 696 square kilometers. In 2050, we'll have a population of 10.5 million people in this city. Urban planners and urban economists talk about something called urban sprawl. Urban sprawl is where now it's actually a very negative effect of not densifying a city, you know, especially in the core of the city. If you don't densify it, then people cannot access services. You have kids waking up at 4 a.m. to go to school. You have people walking from one side of the city to the other city because your city is sprawled. Yeah, you can just check up urban sprawl. And so because of that, we said, look, we need to be able to go up because Nairobi won't become 700 square kilometers. It's 696.
But are we countering green spaces in this? Because
No.
let me ask you a question. If you look at, for example, Valley Road, heading down just in a really short time, because of cutting down of trees, for example, I live down there, right? And you find that, like, for example, where Expressway is, right? We know the amount of trees that were cut down
By
the former government. I understand
no,
that.
by even for this government, by Kenya, not by the county.
They were cut down, right? But this is your county. This is your county,
Yeah,
right?
that is why.
And when we're making all these plans, we're looking at a city turning into a concrete jungle, right? Making the adverse effects of weather patterns become unbearable for Kenyans. I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about informal settlements, but right now we're looking at even in areas where, you know, the posh areas also struggling with this. And one key thing is that trees are being cut down. There's nothing absorbing. You're seeing even, in fact, the tree that fell down in Moi Avenue, right? We could call that part of these issues that are, and this is actually, I'm quoting from one Senate engineer who mentioned that if we keep doing this soil haitashikilia hizi buildings zenye tunafanya, right? So where are we countering? Are we factoring in green spaces in this?
There must be green spaces.
Because we don't see you guys planting.
What do you mean? We planted more than a million
in
trees
these places
in
where
1 year.
these places where guys are building, it's like there's no, you must plant trees.
We planted more than 1 million trees in 1 year. Those requirements are there. I stopped allowing permits to be issued to cut trees to some agencies because, for instance, when Kenya cut the trees along the expressway, they're supposed to do, I think, 3 times more a number of trees, and they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Normally, the permit to cut trees in Nairobi is issued by the director of forestry. And we drive, I see someone has posted, these trees I've got. And I said, I don't like it. Today, I am the one who personally will give you a permit to cut a tree. Myself. The chief officer has to give me. In fact, that file, I said, oh my goodness, I've not looked at it in a few days because I've been out on the field. I'm the one who will give you that permission. Yeah, with the requirements. Myself. Because I believe in these green spaces. Going up doesn't mean every block must be next to each other. Going up doesn't mean we will not have green spaces. There must be green spaces, There must be even within those buildings. And it's not that every part of Nairobi is going to have apartments. No. I'm talking about densification. And so we've gotten 13 billion and 8 billion from French Development Agency and from the Africa Development Bank to increase the sewer network, to increase the water network in these areas I'm talking about. Recently, we got support from Italians, to do Kasarani and Mwiki area in terms of water and sewerage. I've told you about the water plan that we have and the sewer plan. But that nostalgia, if I really want to stay in that sprawling, like where I live today, if I really want to maintain that place, then I need to move to Karen, for instance. You're not going to have apartments there. To parts of Lavington, In fact, if you have a close community like in Runda or like in Buruburu and whatnot, and you've said within our community, as we don't want to allow an apartment here, we will not allow it. So the alarmist thing of how it used to be, for every floor you get, somebody's going to get money, we're just going to build. We're not stupid. We love this city. I was born in this city. Why would I not want you to have green spaces? Why? I'm not a concrete junkie. Like, I love the city, but you must have the reality that looking forward. And that's why this year we're putting together. In fact, I'm just waiting for 2 names from some people. The Nairobi Vision 2050 Task Force to plan and say, okay, this city of 10.5 million guys, how must it look like in terms of transit, in terms of green spaces, in terms of playgrounds, in terms of parks, not just Uhuru Park. We're doing TRM. We're doing, what do we call this? I'm forgetting. Kamkunji grounds, We want to do more parks across the city that people can come, they're therapeutic. Uhuru Park was supposed to be charged. They said, no, let it be for free. These people pay for it through their taxes. Yeah. But let's just have a system that we can make sure that, of course, you don't have it abused, so we can check for security purposes as you come in, even for you to feel safe. We've allocated specific teams just to take care of that place and to keep. Last year, we planted 3,800 trees in Central Park, So when you just get caught up and see one Twitter activist who feels bad because where they grew up as a family, there's an apartment next and she wants it to be how it was, then you get lost in that story. Cities change, cities evolve, so long as there's that plan. And the outcome of this, the master planning during NMS time started, but they procured, they advertised for, local areas, plans for different areas. So I saw one for Embakasi North, for Airport North side, for Woodley. It didn't happen. They didn't have the resources. I've secured $60 million from the MCC, Millennium Challenge Corporation of the US, for the full land use master planning for Nairobi. After that, there's a threshold program. There's a threshold program. After that, there's a compact program. After 12 months of close to $800 million to implement that plan. We cannot do it without a plan. We'll still be in this tower.
Governor, anyway, we're coming to the top of the hour. Nairobians are listening to you. And
there's a plan.
What would you tell Nairobians right now as they're dealing with the floods? Because from your mouth, we're hearing everything is sour.
No, not everything is not sour.
So speak to them.
We have 10 camps, and I've been there yesterday. As I think I've explained.
Yeah, you've explained that part already, yeah.
Now we have guys in Mathare, Valley Bridge, PAG, Ketaturu, DM Hall, Mathare North and Mathare 4A. These are people who need support. We're doing what we can as a county. As I said, we're cooking for them from your kitchen that you guys pay for from your taxes. But they need clothes. They need extra support. We've taken clothes. We've taken non-food items, blankets, mattresses. We need some more in some areas. The camps are reducing. But this should be a lesson to us, both as leaders and as the people, that, look, first, don't fight nature. Nature will fight back. The other day I was in Kangware where there's a wall of the Sudan embassy residence that's been blown off by the water. I told them, look, it's not the water's fault. That's its path. The only place, by the way, just to buttress your point, because I saw people say, it's flooding because of these high-rise buildings. Tell me when Kili it flooded. One place. It didn't. The only place where there was an issue is just unclogging of the drainage. The Green Army sorted it out. There's no place which has flooded in Kilesho or Lavington on account of high-rise buildings. The place in Kilimani that flooded because of buildings is Elite Court Gardens and Orchard. And Elite Court, they know they're on Kirichwa. I was there, I guess, in the 90s it was like this, it flooded. 2014 again, it flooded. We know our wall has constrained the river. They know. That's a development in the 90s. And they're used to it. And we need to blow off that wall. But do we do it then for a rain that will come again in 8 or so years? Tough decisions need to be made. It was only that place at the Arboretum turnoff, Arboretum Kileleshwa turnoff. There was, when it rains, just the sheer quantity, it goes up. And then it then flows because the capacity of our drainage is not made for rains like this throughout the year. Just the capacity.
Governor, I have to get onto some bills.
Okay.
So thank you so much for
coming. Let me just tell Nairobians, please, let's believe it takes progress. It will take time. Let's stay positive, but let's question leadership. Let's question what we're doing. I'm ready to be accountable for what we do, and I'm happy with the progress. When I get more time, we'll explain sector by sector.
Unlock Gava and all its possibilities. Unlock every government tender and access